Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. Are the left parties and the CPM truly opposed to the 123 agreement, or is that just a posture? That's the key issue I shall explore today in an interview with CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, the left parties have asked the Prime Minister not to operationalize the 123 agreement. In response, the Prime Minister has said, we cannot go back on the deal, and he's told you to do whatever you want, including withdrawing support if you should so choose. So what will you do?
Well, the question is not the question of our support or not the support. That's not the issue. The issue is the operationalization of the deal. And we are telling the Prime Minister, A, B, C, D, these are our concerns, why we think this deal is not in India's interest. Do not operationalize it.
All right. If operationalizing the deal is your key concern rather than withdrawing support, then I put it to you that, in fact, the deal is not going to be operationalized until the US Congress ratifies it and until India and America sign on the dotted line. That being the case, if you withdraw support, you can stop the operationalization. So are you prepared to do that or not?
No, the point again, you see, according to Indian Constitution, once an international agreement is arrived upon, there is no need for the Parliament's ratification.
But it's not arrived upon. It will only be arrived upon when they sign. It will only be arrived upon when the US Congress ratifies it. So if I come back to my question, if you don't want it to be arrived upon, you have the power to stop it.
No.
Will you withdraw support or not?
The point is, withdrawing support will not guarantee that stopping of it. Because any future government and the alternative that we have had with the BJP there, they are the ones who started on this entire strategic alliance, partnership, etc. with the USA.
A withdrawal of support today would bring the government down, and it would not be in a position to sign the deal. It would therefore not operationalize it.
Whichever government comes into office in the country, we would want a situation where the terms of any treaty would be different from what they are now.
But you can't get every party in Parliament to give you a blanket assurance that they will never accept a deal with America today or in the future. No. Don't ask for that. It's impossible.
Number one, it's not a question of any deal with America. We are talking of a specific deal, which is the civilian nuclear cooperation deal, A. Number two, we are talking of this deal having certain parameters and certain provisions.
I'll come to those.
Which are not in our country's
right.
interest.
I'll come in a moment to the details that you find objectionable, but let's first stick to the known position that you don't want the deal operationalized. I'm saying to you it won't be until the two countries sign on the dotted line. Let me finish. And it won't happen until the US Congress ratifies it. So if you withdraw support, bring down the government, it won't be operationalized. Now, are you serious, or is this rhetoric and bluster?
No. Let me speak and let me finish. And there, the point that I'm making is, we want any government that comes into office in India can ratify a deal which is different in terms than what it is now.
So what are you looking for? A blanket assurance that no operation ever?
Let me finish. It is not a question of this government ratifying this deal. Any government that comes in, we want a deal that will be ratified, which will be in the interest of our country, which we think this is not.
You know what you're doing? Because you're pitching it so high, you're actually leaving room to not bring the government down. You're asking not for just this government to give you a commitment, but for all governments in the future. And that's why you're actually finding behind this facade a real out.
Mr. Thapar, again, let me finish. The point what I'm saying is, our interest lies in the deal and the interests of India. And the interests of India lie on certain terms which the deal must contain, which it doesn't now.
Let me put
no, 1 minute.
No, I'll come to the terms in a moment's time.
1 minute. If this government goes, some other government comes and brings in the same deal, it will not be in our interest. So we want this deal to be operationalized only when these concerns are met, which we have listed out.
But that's what I'm saying.
No, you're not.
I am.
No, you're
Let
not.
me put it bluntly like this.
Your concern is more with the government falling than with the deal.
No.
Your concern is not with India and the US relation, but with the government going.
No, let me repeat it. I'm saying, rather than ask the Prime Minister, let me finish. Rather than ask the Prime Minister not to operationalize the deal, I'm saying that the power to stop operationalization is in your hands. If you withdraw support and the government ceases to exist, then this government can't sign on the dotted line. So, if you want it to stop, you have the power. Now, are you serious or not?
Again, Mr. Thapar, let me tell you, my agenda is the deal. Your agenda seems to be the government. Number one, my agenda is not the question of which government will sign the deal. My agenda is what does the deal contain.
Okay, I'll come to that in a moment's time.
That is what I want changed.
One last question before I come to that. Many people hearing this interview will say that Sitaram Yechuri faces a trade-off. He can either bring the government down and as a result stop the deal, or he can protect the government at the cost of the deal. Now, what he seems to be indicating is he doesn't want to bring the government down, and therefore he's prepared to have the deal even though he speaks against the deal.
Sitaram Yechuri does not accept the facile link-up of the deal not being operationalized when the government falls that you are making. You are making a link up which is not simply acceptable because that is not true.
It's simple.
What
the
is
government
not?
falls, the deal
Please
won't
listen
happen. The
again,
government survives, the deal will.
either-
You're not
either-
prepared to bring the government down. Why?
Either let me speak or you speak. I'm telling you again, your concern is that your eagerness to bring this government down.
That's not my concern.
Of course it is. That's what you're articulating all the time. My concern is India's interest in what the deal should contain. And as what the deal should contain, in that I'm saying that this deal should not be operationalized till these concerns of ours are met.
But you're not getting that answer from the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister instead has said to you that this deal will be operationalized. Now, given that that's his answer, I'm saying to you, you
That's
have
not
the
his
power.
answer.
Hang on
That's
a
not
moment.
his
That's what he said to the
No.
Telegraph. He said to the Telegraph, we cannot go back on it. He's told you, in fact, that if you don't like it, do what you want. He's also
Yes.
said, withdraw support
Yes,
if you want.
yes,
So
but
he
the-
is not renegotiating.
Again, you're saying the point is not a question of renegotiating. The question is operationalize. If you do not operationalize this deal, the process of renegotiations automatically will happen.
All right. Let's then, well, I'm not sure about that, but leave that aside.
That will-
Let's then
obviously
move-
that will happen.
Let me put you for the last time before I switch and talk about your actual problem with the text of the deal. The audience will say that the CPM and the left parties have the power to stop operationalization. All they have to do is bring the government down.
That is
Let
what I
me finish.
disagree.
Let me finish.
Completely
Let me
disagree
finish.
with-
Let me
You're-
finish.
it's a
Let me
very
finish. Let
fallacious
me finish.
argument.
Let me finish before
You're
you-
repeating a
No,
fallacious
no,
argument.
I'm not fallacious.
Of course,
No,
you are
let's
repeating
not
a fallacious
quarrel. Let's not
argument.
quarrel. Let the audience have
who's
the right to
quarreling?
hear the question before you interrupt.
No,
Before you
the
interrupt.
same question. You asked me four
No,
times so far.
I'm repeating it for a
Again,
simple
for the
reason.
fifth time.
Because if you have the power and don't exercise it, then people will
That
say
is-
this is bluster and rhetoric.
that is-
They're objecting,
that
but
is
they
it.
don't mean it.
Again-
They're actually happy for the deal to go through,
I'm sorry,
but
Mr.
they're putting
Thapa.
up a facade.
I'm sorry, Mr. Thapa. You're not conducting a discussion, but you've come with an agenda in mind. And that agenda seems to be that why am I not pulling down the government?
No, that's
That
not
is
the
your
agenda.
concern.
The
No,
agenda
if you're
is, if
concerned,
you mean
then you say,
your-
let us
no,
talk
the
about
agenda
that.
is the opposite.
No, no,
if you
hang on,
don't
hang
like
on,
the
please,
deal, bring down the government.
No,
if
no,
you
no.
don't bring down the government, you're prepared to accept the deal.
Your audience will see who's talking more and who's talking less. Are you having a discussion with me, or you want to say what you want to say?
It's a very
No,
clever
no, no,
tactic.
no,
It's
no,
a very
no,
clever
if
tactic.
you want to say what you want to say,
Don't
then
want
you
to
don't
answer the
require me.
question,
You don't
attack
require
the
me.
interviewer.
No,
You find the
no.
question
You
difficult,
please
attack
ask,
the
you please
interviewer.
ask your audience who's
Okay.
talking more.
Let's then pull back and let's come to your specific concerns with the deal. To begin with, let's begin with your statement of August the 7th, the four parties' collective statement. You say the nuclear cooperation agreement should not be seen in isolation from the overall strategic tie-up with the United States. And then separately, Prakash Karath has talked about the defense framework agreement. He's talked about the logistics support agreement. He's talked about joint naval exercises. It seems to people that your concerns are to do with the context in which the deal is happening rather than the content of the deal.
See, content of the deal is not separated from the context. This deal has to be viewed at three levels. One is the context in which the deal has been made. Secondly, the actual content of the deal itself. And thirdly, the admission in the 123 agreement that the primacy or the supremacy will remain of the US national law, which is the Hyde Act. One moment. Now, all these three levels, we have very serious objections.
Hang on a moment. You're articulating the three today. The problem is that, in fact, in doing so, you are changing the criteria that you, Sitaram Yechuri, personally announced would be used to determine the goodness or the badness of the deal.
Correct.
Speaking in part, correct. You accept it. You've changed the
Absolutely.
criteria.
No, no, yes.
You accept. You
Yeah, but
accept.
why?
You've changed the
No,
criteria.
no, no, I have not accepted change the criteria. The context has changed. That was in August 2006. When this, then after that came the Hyde Act in December. And the Hyde Act laid down the parameters in which the US will operate.
Hang on a moment.
And
No,
therefore
the
the
context,
entire context has
hasn't
changed.
No,
Of course it
because
has.
the defense framework
Hyde-
agreement predates the deal. It
Mr.
happened in
Thapa,
June 2005.
again.
The deal goes back to July 2005.
Again,
so
Mr.
that part
Mr.
of
Thapa,
context
listen.
was earlier. It hasn't happened afterwards.
Again, you are speaking more than me.
I'm simply
No,
proving
no,
your facts
please,
to be
please,
wrong.
please listen to me. The point is that according to the US law, the US president needs a waiver to sign a 123 agreement with the country. The terms of the waiver come in form of a national law. That national law, which is called the Hyde Act, came into operation in December.
So,
and this assurance,
hasn't affected the
please
context.
again,
It doesn't
let
affect
me
the defense
complete now.
framework agreement.
Please let me complete. And these assurances that I've asked the Prime Minister came in August. After the August, when the Hyde Act came, the context has changed.
Wow, in what way?
Provisions of the Hyde Act.
No, okay. In
The
which case,
provisions of the
now you're
Hyde Act.
shifting. You're shifting
Not
from
me
strategic
shifting, the
concerns to
context has
provisions of
shifted.
the Hyde Act. Let's also shift. You want to shift? I'll shift with you.
I don't know how to explain it. It's so elementary.
It's
if
not.
you please understand.
The point is, you've
Again,
shifted
you
the
go- let
goalpost,
me-
and you're
again-
trying to
again
explain
you-
away the shift.
It's impossible to get any point across to you, as it appears. I am saying that we have taken assurances on the basis of Indo-US statements, agreements that the Prime Minister had with the US President. After that, the USA adopts a law. After that, Please remember after
Yes,
that.
but you're now bringing
Please-
up the defense
please
framework
listen.
agreement which happened earlier,
Please
the
again
logistical support agreement which happened earlier, naval
Again
exercises
you
which
go
are not
on.
connected.
I mean,
So you're trying to equate the two and find a spurious explanation for doing so. I'm pointing out
if
that the
you're-
equation is wrong.
If you're making the point of your knowledge of all these agreements, I'm impressed.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm
but
pointing out
otherwise
that
don't
your
repeat.
factual connections are wrong.
Again you go. Please don't repeat yourself. And listen, the context in which this 123 agreement came has come in the context of a new act which was not there when I asked for the assurances and the Prime Minister gave the assurances.
Let's take
now, one moment. The new act specifies certain conditions and parameters which we are opposed to.
Let's take a break and let's come back to those specific concerns. You've now established that you're not really concerned about strategic relationships. You're actually concerned about the details of the Hyde Act. I'm going to take a break and come back and question you about your objections to do with those details. That's in a moment after the break. Keep watching. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, let's turn to your specific concerns with the Hyde Act. To begin with, you say that the 123 makes it clear that national laws will apply, and that means that clauses within the Hyde Act that you find objectionable will be applicable. The problem is that the three clauses that you specifically pointed towards in your August 7th statement are in fact just reporting requirements. They concern the relationship between the US President and the US Congress, and they in no way restrict or constrain India. So why are you worried about that?
Let me explain to you. And if you want to really know the answer, just bear with me. The Hyde Act says, in case the agreement is terminated, not only will the US cut off supplies, but the USA will work with the other NSG countries, nuclear supply group countries, to ensure nobody supplies to India.
Except that's in a non-binding section of the Hyde Act. It's in 102 and 103, which are non-binding, and you know that.
Yeah, please argue like an Indian. You're not a US citizen.
The law is a US law. The law is a US law. You have to accept US laws and how they apply.
Please,
That's a very peculiar answer.
they will decide their laws. Now listen, according to that law, the Hyde Act, again, it says on the question of the access to technologies. Now here in 123, there's a specific clause which says unless amended, the dual-use technologies for A, B, C will not be provided to India.
Absolutely. And do you know what you have fallaciously said in your August 7th statement instead? Let me quote you. You say that the 123, and I'm quoting, denies access in any form. That's not just an exaggeration, it's untrue. You know that clause 5.2 may not grant immediate access, but it does not deny it.
No.
So when you say it denies access in any form, you're wrong.
No.
Secondly,
Mr. Thapa,
by
the
leaving it
problem
open
is
to an amendment, it is a possibility that can materialize in the future.
You're
getting it wrong.
No, the problem is that I do not have the confidence in the United States that you seem to be having.
So it's a question of trust.
No, it's
a question of trust.
Definitely also. But listen to this answer. 5.2 says very clearly, unless amended,
yes,
these are not given.
But the point is that you're missing something else.
Again, the point is simple. Listen. So unless it's amended, these are denied.
But it's not denied. It is
that is what
permissible. No, if it was denied, they'd say under no circumstances can such
Again, you're talking
technologies be
against
sold.
US lawmaker.
They're actually
You're talking
saying
like
that
US lawmaker.
pending an amendment. I'm not talking as a US
Of course
lawmaker. I'm
you are.
talking
Of
as a
course
man
you-
who understands US
No,
law.
no,
You're talking as a man who's misunderstanding and deliberately misunderstanding
I
US
understand
law.
English. I understand English.
In which
you
case
may
you're
not.
misunderstanding the
No,
language.
no,
But your
unless-
August 7th statement said
unless-
denies access in any form.
unless-
Those
unless-
5 words are wrong.
You're
They're false.
nitpicking for no reason.
I'm not nitpicking. I'm
Absolutely.
pointing out that your
My
August 7th
interest-
statement
my
is
interest
false.
my-
It's wrong.
My interest is my country's interest.
Okay.
Not
In
a
which
lawyer
case-
picking
in
or
which case-
nitpicking.
in which case,
Nitpicking
pause
like you're
the
doing.
moment.
For India, unless this clause is amended, these technologies are not available.
In which case, pause.
Period, simple.
Okay, it's not period, it's not simple.
Of
If
course
India's-
it is.
No, hang on, let me
It's
finish
both.
now. You've done the talking, let me have a
Again,
chance.
you go.
If India's interest is paramount in your mind, then you know that US policy denies access to these technologies to all countries, including nuclear weapon powers. However, what the 5.2 clause we're talking about has done is to very cleverly circumvent US law. Had US law been translated into the 123 in a direct and logically consistent way, no NSG country, let me finish, no NSG country would have been able to sell these technologies to India. Now, because of this circumventing of US law, the NSG window has been opened. Instead of criticizing the 123, you should be applauding the government.
Where is it opened?
Because
Where
it
is it
allows
open?
NSG countries to sell these technologies. They
Oh,
have no law that
who-
permits them
that-
not to do
quote me
so.
one clause.
America does.
Quote me one clause.
Quote
it
you what
allows
clause,
NSG That they, NSG countries are permitted to sell this
Hang on
technology.
a moment. The Americans
It
are
is
going to
not
be...
there.
No,
You're just simply fabricating.
No, I'm not
Of
fabricating.
course you are.
The truth
There's
is that
not a
no,
single.
no.
There's
You know what
not a
you're
single
forgetting?
line
No,
there.
I'm sorry. It doesn't have to be in the 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 is between
then
India and
where is-
America.
where is
You
it?
know and I know that the 1, 2, 3 makes possible a relationship with the NSG. Without the 1, 2, 3, there would be no NSG.
Listen.
After the NSG has happened, the 1, 2, 3
Again.
becomes effectively irrelevant.
Again, Mr. Thapa,
You're
you
missing
are...
that point deliberately.
No,
You know the truth,
no.
but you don't want to see it because you have an ideological position that doesn't let you accept America.
I do not want to subscribe to your position of obfuscating the
Subscribe
facts.
to the truth.
Now listen, of obfuscating the facts in order to become cozy up to America.
But not
I'm not.
That's the problem.
You are
So it's not the
obfuscating.
deal.
You
It
are
is a
obfuscating the
relationship
truth.
with America
You
that
are-
you object to.
You are obfuscating the truth. The truth is, unless that is amended, you cannot get the technologies. A. B, the national law will prevail, which says NSG countries will be prevented from giving fuel and technology
No,
to India.
forgive me.
Simple
the
as that.
NSG countries do not have a law that prevents them selling such technologies to other countries. America does. That's why America can't sell it. What 1, 2, 3 has done is to circumvent America so cleverly to open the window for the NSG. You're ignoring that
I'm sorry.
because it doesn't go with your
I
argument
know.
and position.
Again, I'm very, very sorry that you don't seem to understand. NSG functions on a consensus. America is part of
And
NSG.
America is committed
Hang
to
on.
ensuring that
Please,
that consensus goes
again
in
you're
our favor.
interrupting. Again you're interrupting. America is part of the NSG. And if there's no consensus in NSG, they cannot do anything.
Forgive me.
No,
We're not
please,
talking about
please.
consensus. We're
Again,
talking about
again,
different
please.
countries having different laws.
you-
American law on
you-
this differs to NSG.
Well,
That's the
well,
point you're
there's-
missing.
There's obviously, you have an ideological point which you want to
No,
pursue.
you do, not me.
You are.
Okay.
You are having
Let
an
me pause a
ideological point
moment.
which
Let
you
me
want to
pause a
pursue.
moment and put something to you. The government's position, as well as that of perhaps a lot of analysts, is that in fact the nuclear deal will only be completed after the NSG have given their concurrence. Why doesn't the CPM and why don't the rest of the left parties wait to see what decisions the NSG takes? Because then on critical issues like immunization of strategic reserves, on clean rights to reprocess, on the right to return, all of those you will have had decent answers when the NSG gives its opinion. Why don't you wait till then before you give your opinion? Instead, what you're doing is jumping the gun and jumping in the wrong direction.
No, what we are saying is that if you, what is the question of waiting there? Here it says supremacy of the US law. That NSG is not going to change.
NSG
Yeah,
does
no,
not
that
become
NSG is not-
subject to US laws. That's the
that-
point.
you see,
NSG
that's
has its
precisely-
own laws that are different. Wait for the NSG for that
And
reason.
here I have 1, 2, 3 which says supremacy of the US law will prevail. Now that is the
Only
point.
as far
Very
as
simple.
America is concerned,
Why-
not
why-
as far as the rest of the world.
No,
That's the point you're missing.
No, again, I mean, 1, 2, 3 is with America. We are talking about the 1, 2, 3.
But the
is
1, 2, 3 only
You're-
comes into
no.
effect after the NSG has given
That's
its opinion.
okay.
So wait
With-
till the NSG, because then when you know what the NSG has
Why
decided,
in the
your
mean-
attitude to
why
the 1,
in
2, 3 will change.
in the meanwhile, why doesn't the US accept the fact that instead of their national laws, why can't the Vienna Convention be accepted?
You know what the problem
No,
is?
why can't that be accepted?
You're going off half
Again.
cock
No,
without
we are
knowing
not.
the full
No, no,
outcome.
no,
You're
no.
opposing a deal that's only
No,
still in the making. The
listen.
NSG component is left. It will materially and significantly change the outcome. Yet by insisting it's not
Again.
operationalized, you are actually precluding something in India's interest. Your prejudice is a problem, not the fact that you are acting in India's interest.
Thank
You're
you.
not.
Thank you for doing most of the talking and also coming to your own conclusions. You're most welcome. I mean, you can come to your conclusions, but the facts of the matter are
conclusion
different.
doesn't agree
Facts of
with
the
your
matter are
opinion.
different.
That's the problem.
No, the facts of the matter are different. Facts of the matter are entirely different, that you have a 1, 2, 3 where the supremacy of the national law of the US prevails. And that is
Only as
not-
far as
that
America is
not-
concerned.
That is not acceptable for India and
Only
its
as far as
sovereignty.
America is concerned. And
Absolutely,
supremacy of
I'm sorry.
Indian, supremacy of Indian
I mean,
laws applies to India.
That is not negotiable is India's sovereignty
In
and
which case?
India's capacity to take its own interests
In which
its
case,
national
in
interests.
which case, if
That's
you're
it.
coming back to this simple thing, that sovereignty of American law over India is not acceptable, I ask you again, to stop the operationalization of this deal, will you exercise the only power you have, which is to bring down the government?
That does not stop the operationalization.
It does,
That
because
doesn't.
if the government doesn't exist, it
There
can't be
again you go.
operationalized.
Any-
The government that doesn't
any
exist
government
can't
can.
sign a deal.
Any government can.
Well, you don't
No,
want,
that-
you want a future guarantee from the BJP,
I
from
want-
every member of parliament?
Not
You want a guarantee from parliament
I want
itself?
the framework of the law such that it will not affect
I suspect this
India's
is an
sovereignty.
excuse for arguing against the deal
That is
whilst
your
letting it
opinion.
go ahead.
You say
You're
that's
trying
your-
to
that is
add
your
2 and 2 and
opinion,
come up
Mr.
to
Thapa.
22.
Mr. Thapa, you are entitled to your opinions. Please keep them, but don't try to browbeat a discussion in that direction.
I am not browbeating it.
That-
I'm
that's
simply
what you're
questioning,
doing.
but a
That is
pleasure
what-
talking
that
to you,
is what
Mr.
you're doing.
Yechuri.